3, 2, 1, boom, let's go.
Da, 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 da. It's life outside the box.
There you go. Nice intro this week,
Wow. Wow.
You want to comment on that before we go?
I've never had a podcast introduction like that.
I've had a theme song. What would you rate out of 10?
10.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, you and Sean both 10. No chance.
Wow.
So this
Next
week,
week.
Samuel, what have we got on this week?
So this week we've got another very special guest. We've got Sonny Webster joining us here on the sofa. Not only is he an ex-Olympic athlete, multiple business owner, but also an online coach to thousands of athletes. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Sonny Webster. I'm 28 years old. I've been Olympic weightlifting since the age of 11. I competed in the 2016 Olympics, 2014 Commonwealth Games, and pretty much every other weightlifting competition that there is. Since finishing competing, I've set up 4 main businesses. Big Fry Supplies, my clothing line, the Mobility Manual, which helps people all around the world improve their mobility for sports performance, as well as delivering seminars and online Olympic weightlifting coaching as well. So I keep myself pretty busy.
That's a bit of a resume, isn't it? Do you want to say your resume now? Samuel, after that one.
I'm Sam.
I'm Sam and
I like grapes.
Awesome. That is one hell of a resume there, Sonny. We're going to jump straight into some questions for you that the viewers have sent in. So as you guys at home know, we open up our question box 24 hours before the podcast, and you guys send in some questions and we pick the best 4. So we're going to get going. Sam, do you have a question for Sonny before we start?
Yeah, what is the best shoes for weightlifting?
Mate, I don't know why you guys obsess so much over what the best lifting shoes. I actually snatched 150 the other day in these fucking runners. Like, it really doesn't make too much difference. But if you're going to get a pair, I'd say Nike Remelio 2s, if you can get hold of them.
Yeah, good luck with that. Right, let's get into the rest.
Let's get into the real ones. Okay, so this question was sent in from Hattie. Just want to say a quick congratulations to Hattie. She came second at Wadapalooza and she qualified for the North American region female semi-finals at CrossFit. So
What a
she's
boss.
absolutely smashing it.
Good work, Hattie.
Fair play.
Yeah. So she wants to know is, do I need to or will strengthening my deadlift strengthen my Olympic lifts?
It's a good question, but one of the easiest ways to look at this, right, is if we were to bring a powerlifter into the room, right? Powerlifter, say Sebastian, for example, deadlifts fucking shitloads, like maybe like 300 kilos, squats 410 kilos. Would he automatically, by having a huge deadlift, improve his Olympic weightlifting? Absolutely not, because there's too many factors that come into play aside of strength, which are far more important in Olympic weightlifting, which is technique and range of motion. If you haven't got good technique or can't get in the efficient positions that you need to be in when you're an Olympic weightlifter, obviously it's going to make it very difficult for you to utilize your strength. 9 times out of 10, the clients that I work with on a daily basis, strength isn't their limiting factor. It's the fact that they can't get in the positions that require them for Olympic lifts. So if you were technically efficient, yes, increasing your deadlift or your base level of strength would in turn help you lift more weight. However, you need to make sure the technique and the mobility is there first, else it's quite pointless investing time and energy into developing strength.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I find that we find a lot of people in life focus a lot on trying to get stronger, and they're focusing on doing a squat cycle or doing this or doing that, and then they're not focusing on breaking down the lift and going back to basics. And you can actually improve just by improving your technique without having
to get any
fraction
stronger.
of the strength. Yeah.
And that's what I always say to people. It's far more beneficial to actually be more efficient with the strength that you already have than it is just trying to increase strength further. But that's one of the things that getting stronger is more exciting than working with a light bar and drilling technique, or than it is going through a heavy squat cycle and slamming bars. So I get it, but you have to put your ego to one side sometimes of Olympic weightlifting and focus on the boring shit that actually makes you lift heavier.
So yes, but as a third option.
Yeah, not a priority. It would if you're technically efficient and you move well. However, for 9 times out of 10 people that I work with, strength isn't the limiting factor. So I wouldn't invest too much time and energy into it. And even going into the deadlift a little bit more, a much more beneficial exercise for Olympic weightlifting would be to do pulls or something like that. So an explosive version of a deadlift, if you don't know what a pull is, which would carry over much better to the Olympic lift.
Absolutely. Awesome answer. I don't think that anyone could have answered that better.
That's why he's here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this was from one of your followers actually, Sonny, called Pan. It was how to get stability in an overhead squat position.
Yeah, so we were chatting about this prior to the podcast, and I think, you know, stability in the overhead position is something that a lot of people struggle with when they get into the Olympic movements, so especially in the snatch. So naturally, if you grip wider on the barbell when it's overhead, you lose stability. If you imagine trying to do a handstand with a wide grip versus doing a handstand, with a wide position versus doing a handstand with your hands directly above your shoulders, you're going to get a lot more stability. So of course people struggle further with stability when they're snatching. My top tip, without going into too much detail, with stability in the overhead squat is to make sure that when you're in your locked out position overhead is that you're letting the wrist sit back and you're staying externally rotated so that you feel the weight sink down into the lower body. Whenever I'm doing an overhead squat, I try and forget about the weight being overhead and focus on what my lower body is doing. If you're not comfortable in the position that you want to be in the bottom position of the overhead squat, then you're always going to be less stable. But you have to focus on letting the big muscles do the work. One of the things that we also mentioned about when we were chatting before this podcast was just accessory movements in general and how people utilize them in Olympic weightlifting. And for me, I find a lot of beginners look for adding lots of variation into their training. They see weightlifters, elite level weightlifters doing crazy different variations of the movement online and think that that's potentially something that they need to start doing themselves. However, for me, from my experience, especially working with beginners or people getting into weightlifting a little bit later in life, or predominantly CrossFitters, they don't actually get enough time to actually master the classical movement, let alone adding in accessory movements of variation. And for me, accessory movements or variations of the classical exercise are either there to correct a technical fault or to add variation to someone's training. But if you're only snatching once a week, then I would say that there's no point adding in too much variation to the movement patterns that you're doing, and stick to mastering the classical movements because it's going to have a much better carryover.
Yeah, we had a similar kind of answer from Sean last week, and it's very easy to go on social media and see the next best thing or this new exercise, and the reality is there is no magic pill or magic movement that you're going to do that's going to make your snatching instantly better. It's like, at the end of the day, if you're not snatching specifically, you're not going to get better at snatching.
No, you have to practice the movement that you want to be good at.
Sounds like very similar to the first question and to what Sean was saying last week. The basics are the basics for a reason.
Yeah.
We've got to stick with them.
Yeah, well, even in my training now, if you were to look at what my week looks like, I snatch once a week, I clean and jerk once a week, I squat 3 times a week, I pull 3 times a week. So 5 training sessions a week, just covering the fundamental movements. If I was to increase my training past 3 to 5 times a week and over that to doing double sessions, then I'd maybe look to add in some accessory work, some variation, but it's not as important as people think when you're just learning out the movement. You have to be able to master the fundamentals before you start adding that variation.
Awesome, absolutely awesome. So the next question was sent in from Lauren. So Lauren was a past guest of ours. Lauren is like the Pilates queen. We had her on a couple of episodes ago, and she sent in saying, what's the biggest setback you faced whilst coaching online, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, there's such a difficult question to answer in short, because there's so many different variations of people's coaching online. And I think the easiest way to kind of divulge and get to a productive answer for Lauren would be to kind of take you guys back to how I started working online, and then highlight a couple of the key areas that I've struggled with in the past and how I've overcome them, because I think that would be valuable to any online coaches that are potentially listening to this. And when I first started coaching online, my process, and this is going back maybe six years ago now, so I was fairly early adopter to online program sales. Now every man their dog does it, so it's a very competitive market. But what I used to do is I used to send out a message on Instagram and say, hey, who would like a strength training program by me? And then if someone DM'd me back saying, yes, I want one, then I'd say, what's your email? Then I'd email them all the information for the program. If they emailed me back saying, yes, I'd love that training program, then I'd be like, cool, this is how much it costs. Once you've sent your payment, send me confirmation back from PayPal. Once I got the confirmation email back, I then sent them the program. Okay? I was doing nearly 1,000 emails a week, and I was like, fuck, I thought I was doing amazing. I was making lots of money. I was selling like hundreds of programs. But I was working like a dog to do it. And then I got a direct message one day off this guy who was a marketing specialist. Cam is now actually one of my partners. And he said, hey, Sonny, I've seen like you selling programs online. I think I can streamline the process for you. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, you know, I had nothing to lose. Like for me in business, I'm always open to hearing people's suggestions and giving it a go. Worst case scenario, it's not going to work, but I'm going to have learned something from the process. And I very much took that approach with Cam, and he set me up a sales page and an email list. And I was like, what the fuck's this? And then he was like, so now what you can do, instead of like going through that long-winded process, you can just put the sales page up with all the information that you put on that document, and then if someone wants to buy it, they click and then they buy the program and then automatically get sent to them. And I was like, what do you mean? So I don't need to email them back and forth. He's like, no, it's all automated. I was like, fuck. So that was like a massive turning point for me initially, working online to streamline the process in which people can sell. I'd say having an email list is of huge value. It's one of the things that people don't give enough credit to building a database and an email list. I used to never care about collecting emails. Now it's like the most important thing. Because at the end of the day, like running, I think people initially when they go online to start selling training programs, they don't master the ability to sell programs organically to their audience first. They go straight to try and spend money in ads. And spending money on ads, and we spend thousands of pounds a month in advertising my programs, only works once you've proved that your process works selling organically first of all. And that also takes people a full-time job for someone to manage an ad spend. So I would say focus on mastering organic sales first in a streamlined process through an email list and through a really good sales funnel using something like ClickFunnels. Master the fundamentals first before you then start spending ads. And then my next bit of advice, which is something that I wish I'd learned earlier, but having different levels to your funnel, like in terms of having low ticket offer, but also having a high ticket offer as well. A lot of people, when they get into online sales, they sell a PDF for £49 or $47. But you can have people that can come into your world and love you so much that they want to spend a lot of money with you. But if you don't give them the option to spend £1,000 for a high ticket product, or £2,000, or even up to £10,000 some people sell courses for, then people won't. So make sure you give people the option to have different tiers, but also don't give too much away on your low ticket stuff, because you'll have nothing then as a premium offer towards your high end offer. And I think that's, you know, some nice simple tips there for people to learn without, you know, it's very different from multiple different products and businesses.
I feel like I wish I had my notepad out now, just jotting that down as we're going along.
But this is the thing, like I've been in the game now 7 years selling products online. I've made so many fucking mistakes and learned so much, it's unreal. And that's the side of things that people don't necessarily see. They see the creatives, the ads, and they think, oh, this guy's just making shitloads of money and he's making it look really fucking easy. You know, there's been so much learning for me and trying to gain as much knowledge from different experts in different fields, trial and error before you kind of find something that works. But even then, things get old, creatives get old, and you have to keep redeveloping and redefining. Whereas, you know, I was under the impression that once you get a real slick process in place, that's it, you let it go and it makes you loads of money. But it requires constant attention, updating, development, and I guess being kind of innovative in terms of the offer that you're offering to people, and the way that you're positioning it plays a huge part in creating sales. You know, actually prying into people's pain points and the things that are preventing them from progressing plays a huge part in that. And you know, it's a fun process, because I think when things are going really well and when you're making lots of money, it's easy for you to kind of sit back and just go like, this is great, and you don't start using your brain. And then the minute things go bad, then you have to start thinking, okay, well, how can we reposition this product and actually pry into what people want? And I really stumbled across the mobility manual as my main product now, that is by far the biggest thing that we sell in our business, and obviously we've just developed the app for. That was kind of completely by chance. When I started creating products online, I created the things that I thought people needed, not the things that people actually wanted.
Yeah.
And I would question, like, why aren't people buying this? Like, I made this Learn to Lift course, and it was literally everything and every bit of my knowledge that I ever had in Olympic weightlifting from start to scratch. And like, the value in there was ridiculous for what I was selling it for £97. And I put the product online, and I was like, why aren't people buying this? And it was purely down to the way that they positioned it. People were like, had been lifting for 3 months, but wouldn't say that they were beginner.
Yeah.
But in my world, if you're under 3 years Olympic weightlifting experience, I'd say you're still very much a beginner.
Yeah.
But that was partly down to my fault for positioning that product in the wrong way, you know. And there's so much of that to learn from as well. And I'd say, you know, advice to people that are creating products online: really listen to what it is that your audience want and need, and then position the product around that, and it will have a huge impact on your ability to convert sales.
It's really crazy you saying that, because I'm sure the guys at home that are listening to this will resonate as well. Because when you're talking, it's like, I feel like you're talking direct to me, because all the things that you said, the mistakes you made in the past, I feel like I'm making them right now.
Yeah.
So for the guys that are listening out there who are still relatively new to online coaching, I'm 100% sure they'll be going through the same problems right now.
Yeah, but don't be like afraid to make those mistakes. Like, I love making the mistakes because I learned something new, and there never is a point where you get like, I've completed it, I'm on top of this game now, because there's always another step, there's always more money to be made. But I'd say one of the hardest things, like speaking really now from the position that I'm in, is actually enjoying the process and focusing on, you know, being profitable. It's very easy to get lost in growth and to keep making bigger steps to go 7 figures, 8 figures, whatever it may be in terms of your revenue and turnover. But ultimately, the numbers don't lie, and it's very easy to get emotionally attached to a product or to something that you sell because you love and you believe in it. But when you become a business owner, ultimately, profit is what's important. And I was in a position 6 months ago or a year ago now where I just had 2 members of staff, overheads are very low, we're making a shitload of profit. Now, because I wanted to kind of make that next step, I've got 10 members of staff and I'm nowhere near as profitable as I was. And you have to question, like, is having a bigger team and making more revenue what you want to do, because that carries a lot of fucking headaches, or do you want a really finely tuned profitable machine which gives you free time to actually invest in the things that give you enjoyment in life, you know?
Yeah, wow, that's super interesting. I really like what you said about potentially outreaching to get someone else to help you with this stuff, because you're gonna have the best training program in the world, and if nobody's seeing it, because you could be a great trainer in the gym, but if you have no like practical IT skills or sense, then it's really difficult for you to get that out. Like, you had that same issue in the beginning, and somebody came to you and you managed to use them to help you progress to the next level. I just think that it's like leaving your ego at the door a little bit and thinking, okay, maybe if I get someone to help me push out my product and my brand, then suddenly I'm going to start to get that engagement and
that's
really
the
bring
thing.
numbers.
Sharing a slice of the pie of something that you never had is absolutely fine, and you've got to play to your strengths. If you're a great coach and you know you're a great deliverer of your knowledge, then that's what you need to be focusing your time and attention on, not punching out emails or trying to create click funnels. And although it can kind of seem like quite a large investment at the beginning, in the long run, it will always pay dividends.
I think we all know, like, trainers back home who are really good trainers but not particularly good at marketing and struggle online. We all know trainers who are not particularly great trainers but unbelievable at marketing who will get more clicks to start off with.
100%, and I think it infuriates good coaches, because they're like, this guy doesn't know as much as me, but he's doing so much better. But he's playing smart, you know.
Yeah.
And
it's business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's what that is about. But I would say, like, just from sort of my outlook on the fitness industry and the way people are investing and spending money now, because the market is so saturated for a low ticket price, a very quick win, small investment, people aren't spending that way anymore, aren't buying the low ticket product anymore, because it's like anything. If something's free, or if something's only going to cost you 20 quid, there's very minimal buy-in for the person that's purchasing. Their ability to commit is very little. You know, if you spend 5 quid on bottle of wine and it goes to waste, that you're not really fucking bothered. If you spend $5,000 on it and it goes, you're fucking screwing. But it's going to give you more.
That wine, aren't you?
You're going to enjoy that wine. You're going to make sure that it gets consumed, you know. And it's the same now in the fitness industry, in my opinion. People are now looking for a more personal service, a higher end product that they can invest a little bit more money in, because at the end of the day, you know, my high ticket product's £2,500, and people that are spending that, it's a serious amount of money. So they're going to give you a serious amount of their time. And, you know, for me, I like to see that buy-in from the clients that are going to work for me, because I know that they're going to put everything in that I need them to. So
yeah, that's awesome as well. And just knowing that once they have made that investment, that they are going to be willing, and then you potentially don't need as many clients, and you can focus your time a little bit more on delivering them a decent product.
100%.
If you've got 5 clients paying $2,500 a month, then you only need 5 clients, and you've still got an absolutely insane
And that's
wage.
the same as selling 5,000 programs at
exactly.
25 quid, which is a lot more work, a lot more customer service time, you know, a lot more management. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a small group of high-paying clients that's going to give you more free time and make it easier for you to manage. And you'll probably get more enjoyment out of the service that you deliver as well.
Well, they're going to get a lot more out of it, which means then in turn your business is going to grow, because your progress for your clients is going to be a lot better.
100%.
I think that maybe the guys have probably logged into this show maybe wanting to, maybe expecting to hear more about, like, say, Olympic weightlifting stuff, but that one segment there is probably going to be so valuable to the guys at home. They're going to learn so much and take away so much from that one segment.
Yeah, and it's awesome to hear, like, you're not just a weightlifter. It's like, you're not successful because you were good at weightlifting and now suddenly you've used that to become successful. It's like obvious that you're a smart business, like strong business-minded guy, and you're using that knowledge to help you progress in your business.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things though with social media. I very much use my social media as a tool to create emotion with people, entertainment. And if you were to flick onto my Instagram, you'd be like, it's fucking just this absolute bonehead that just launches unbelievable weights that I have no comprehension of. But it creates engagement and brings in a further audience. For me, it's only at these points in podcasts where I guess to communicate my business side, or like my smart side, if you like.
I just think when you
Which
said
is
that,
nice to hear.
Just thinking about that scooter reel last night that you were doing, as you were saying that, I was like, people who have seen last night's reel will just know. Okay, so I think that what we're talking about now is going to lead really well into this question. This is from Lynn. Lynn's managed to get a question, I think, on every single episode so far.
Well done, Lynn.
Good work, Lynn.
So,
Number one fan.
Lynn's back actually a week on Sunday to Bali, which will be nice. But what's the biggest lesson you learned from your Olympic journey that has crossed over into running a big business?
God, that's a great question, Lynn. And I think, you know, for me as an Olympic weightlifter, to get to the Olympic Games or get to the highest point in any sport requires a huge amount of dedication to one thing. And I would say not only that, but ability to deal with setbacks from a sporting sense, or disappointments, has helped me in sport, has helped me deal with that better in as a business owner. I think like some of the most difficult things that happened to me throughout my career in failure and disappointment, I got very good as an athlete at, if something bad happened to me, learning from it and moving on quite quickly. I'd say one of the things that a lot of people make a mistake on in business is if something shit happens, they have a bad week, something falls through, they dwell on it for too long, and it slows down that ability to get back on the horse and start moving forward again. It's like when someone gets an injury or fails to qualify for a competition, they go out on a bender for 2 weeks, they don't want to train, they're deflated, and then it takes a month before they start getting back into the flow. As an athlete, I was very good when something negative happened or something bad happened to be like, okay, well, it is what it is. What am I going to do now to ensure that I can move forward or make sure that never happens again? I do the same now in my business. So having the ability to overcome things that aren't going well, focus on the positives, learn from the mistakes and move forward is probably the biggest thing that's carried over from my competitive career as an athlete into business.
Yeah, the thing that you said before about not being scared to failing because you can learn from it.
Yeah, I think there's just such negative vibes around failure and mistakes and stuff, and it's predominantly down to the fact that people don't share them. People share their wins, so it makes it seem unnormal to fail. Whereas like I'm very proud of the fact of the disappointments and stuff and the letdowns and the mistakes that I've made in life, because it's certainly made me who I am today. And I think the sooner you take ownership over your flaws and the negative things that you experience in life, the more comfortable you become in your own skin and who you are, and it then allows you to keep moving forward, you know.
Yeah, it's more of like a practical sense as well. Using weightlifting for example of how you can actually use the sport to deal with your kind of like your bad feelings or your stress around like failure. So I remember when I first started weightlifting, if I like missed a lift, I'd be like so mad. And you're like throwing the bar and like kicking it, and you see it all the time in the gym. People like 100%. Mike here who missed a lift and he's swearing and he's shouting, and it took me like 2 or 3 years of lifting to kind of like learn how to deal with that. And now like if I miss a lift, I'm not mad. I'm just like, okay, I've missed this lift. It's a sign of where I'm at right now. And next week I'm going to have another opportunity to get better or to improve on it. And it's just like...
That's what I always say to people as well. Like training is for missing lifts and for learning and figuring shit out. That's part of training. And if you aren't doing that, I question whether you're training close enough to your limit, you know, to a point where you can actually grow and develop and learn from the missed lifts. But I think just going into that in a little bit more detail, like you said, that it's always something that you don't see on social media. Many elite lifters posting missed lifts. You only see their good lifts. So I always like to let people know like what I do when I miss a lift, and it's taking that emotional side out of the missed lift, the angries, the fuck you, I can't believe I've missed this, you know, that frustration, and trying to leave that emotional side out of it and go, okay, well, why did I miss the lift? It was obviously something that went wrong in my process. And then in the next lift, going in with something that's different to what you approached the previous lift in, so you have a better chance of a more positive outcome. And that's where there's so much value in recording your lifts and actually taking ownership over analyzing your own lifts, so that you can have a better understanding of what it is that you're going to do differently that's going to make a correct lift. And that's why from a coaching point of view, it's so valuable in such a technical sport like Olympic weightlifting to at least spend a period of time where you develop your knowledge of Olympic weightlifting through coaching, through a course, so that you have a more educated analysis of your own lifting.
Yeah, just a sidebar from that, if anyone is sick of seeing people hit massive lifts on Instagram, wants to see somebody put loads of fails up, then just go to my Instagram, because it's just full of failed lifts. But yeah, so
not that bad, mate.
You were going to say it if I didn't say it. So, okay, so we're going to move on to a little bonus question now. So as we know, we've not got a massive following here, but when we put up the question box, by far the biggest question that was asked was about what products you are using on your hair at the moment. I don't know if you want to give like a little insight to the people who don't understand that.
You two have got the fucking sexiest lips.
Stop it.
But basically, so it must have been about 6 to 8 months ago, I noticed that through lockdown, like everyone else did, I shaved my head bald because you couldn't get to barbers. But I just grew a mullet.
I thought you did it because.
No, I shaved my head bald in lockdown. But then when I did, I was like, fuck, my hair's going a bit here. And it just wasn't growing back like it used to, and it was a little bit thin, and it was definitely getting me down a little bit, because like I wanted to have a full lustrous fucking lid like you guys. And I got to the point, and I think so many guys go through this, they get insecure about their hair, a bit like how women do potentially about the size of their breasts or something like that. But I think it's more normalized to go and get breast enlargement or reduction, if that may be the case, and it'd be like, okay, I'm doing that for myself to feel better. Whereas with men, it's a bit of like a taboo subject. It's almost like a sign of weakness, I guess, to a degree, or like if you're losing your hair.
Any cosmetic surgery has the stigma where it's like a feminine thing.
Yeah.
Men will maybe feel like a hair transplant will make them seem a little bit more feminine.
Yeah, exactly. But I think ultimately, as long as you're doing it to feel better about yourself, is the key reason. That's all that matters. And I was like, right, well, I'm going to go and get a hair transplant because I wanted fucking more hair again. And I went in and spoke to the clinic, and they said, look, before we do a hair transplant, which you can do, fine, it was going to be like about 18,000 Aussie. Try this finasteride and this medoxanil, which are 2 tablets that you can take. And they said, regardless of whether we do the hair transplant or not, we get you to have this for 6 months to get your hair as thick and as strong as possible before we do the transplant. And I was like, fuck it, I'll give everything a go. Went and started taking these tablets, and within 2 months, like, I'm sure you can include maybe in this podcast a photo of the before and after. But within 2 months, I was like, fuck, my hair's coming back now. I'm back, baby. And yeah, it just really fucking worked well for me. You have to have the tablets every single day, and a lot of people are skeptical about it because of the side effects. One of the key side effects that was mentioned to me that maybe your libido or sex drive would drop. And I reckon it went from like stupidly fucking high to like a normal high. So Linda was like, this is fine.
They can deal with it.
Yeah. So I think, you know, for me, like, I'm not a doctor, and I did go and get medical advice before I started on this medication, but it gave me like so much more confidence again in my hair, to the point where now I'm not going to even bother with a hair transplant. So yeah, I definitely suggest if there's anyone listening that's going through that similar situation, and it's not only men that go through this situation, it's women too, with thinning hair or hair loss as well. And it definitely was one of the best decisions I made, and like I said, I'm minimal side effects from the products.
Yeah,
That's absolutely sick.
yeah, that's so interesting, and it's so nice that you're like a voice to that, to be okay to talk about it, because it is one of those things that I know, like, I feel it, like sometimes I'm like, is my hair receding? Is it going? Because it is like your identity, and it's like not a choice that you can willingly make going bald.
No.
It's like, I don't want to wake up tomorrow and be bald for the next like 50 years. It's like, I want to try to hold on to that.
But that's the thing, I think not enough people take action soon enough, and they let it get to the point where they're already conscious about it before they do something about it. Whereas it's like normalizing this conversation and making it feel okay for men to talk about receding hairlines or wrinkles or whatever it may be, because there's so many things that everyone go through themselves that they don't talk about. And I think normalizing those conversations makes it so much more comfortable for people to deal with.
That's interesting. Do you think you got ahead of it then? Do you think you started
Is
like
that a
before? Really though. But do you think you started before you needed to, and that's why they maybe had such a great effect?
Potentially, because at the end of the day, from my understanding, one of the drugs only will help strengthen hair that you already have. It won't regrow your hair. It's not like a miracle grow. So it strengthens the hair that you already have, which can make your hair appear denser, from my understanding. So yeah, I think to a degree I probably did. What one of the other drugs does is it stops you turning testosterone into another form of testosterone, which causes pattern baldness in the head. So I think it has something to do with your testosterone levels as well. But there's also, you know, speculation whether having this drug reduces your testosterone levels,
which is where the reduced libido
well,
may come from.
Yeah, but my biggest issue or my biggest worry was being in a strength-based sport where testosterone is so important for muscle growth, development, or whatever. Was that going to affect my ability in my sports performance? And I was assured that it wouldn't, and to be honest, it hasn't. So that was my main worry. Didn't want to be.
No, I'm proud of you, mate. It's good to see you with hair again.
Yeah.
And I feel like this topic comes up every week. Is like we always talk about, this is a like health and fitness kind of podcast, and every week I feel like I'm just saying there's so many different aspects to health, and like our mental health is such a big one. As we think about going to the gym, and it's a healthy thing to do, but if you're not happy with whether it be your hair or something else outside, it's like so important just to like talk about it and make it normal and get yourself feeling better about it.
Well, if we're being honest, probably the majority, maybe even 90% of people that start the gym is to improve the confidence.
Yeah.
And if you've done something there that's improved your confidence massively.
Yeah, there's not enough value given to doing, like you said, worrying about the fundamentals and the basic stuff outside of what you do in the gym as well.
Awesome. So what we're going to do now is going to move on to our sections, what we talk about with all of our guests. So we're just going to look for like a little snippet here about what is the most important thing you do outside of the gym, that helps you inside of the gym?
Yeah, and I think like that's such a broad question. So I was actually chatting with Crispy about that yesterday, and you know, my life now outside the gym is very different than what it was as an athlete, and I very much use my time in the gym as my luxury thing, and I think not enough people remember that the time that they get to spend in the gym is a luxury, and it should be enjoyed as something that we are very fortunate to be able to do, that a lot of people don't get the luxury to go and do. And I think especially in the lowest level of competition or participation in sport, people put too much pressure on themselves to be good or beat themselves up when they're inside the gym. Whereas for me, I look at my time spent in the gym as my escape from my life and my very hectic time day to day running my businesses, etc., or in my life, to actually enjoy the time I spend in the gym. So I was trying to like dance around and think about what it is that I necessarily do outside the gym that makes me better, but I don't think that my focus is on that now. I look at my time spent in the gym as a time to interact with my friends, switch off from my outside world, and really enjoy the time spent there, bettering myself and being competitive with myself in that environment. And even I've competed in the most elite platform in the world, and to me still enjoyment when I train is the most important thing. Like, it is a luxury to do, and I enjoy going into the gym, and that's the main thing that I focus on.
I do remember you speaking on a podcast I listened to about wearing a hat backwards and stuff, because that was your identity and making sure you enjoyed it whilst you're still on the platform and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, the hat wearing at the Olympics, that was my attempt to express my personality in that very short amount of time.
You weren't balding at this point, really.
No. But I think that's the thing. Like when you compete in a sport like Olympic weightlifting, you get 6 seconds to demonstrate the months and the years of hard work that's gone into being into that space. And like, as a weightlifter, you lift a weight that is completely incomprehensible to the majority of people. They get no way to actually connect with you as a person, which, you know, for me was really important to be able to kind of show my personality in that short space of time, which is why I used to wear a snapback. And I think that's one of the main things that is missed in Olympic weightlifting and a lot of competitive sport, is the actual type of person that's outside of that competitive environment, which I kind of guess leads into your question. And I think, like, for me, even we were talking about the drive to survive, which I'm completely obsessed with at the moment, but I think the reason why people now love F1 so much more than they ever did is because they get an insight into the people that are behind that amazing ability to drive a car, and it allows you to actually connect with that person and fall in love with them and their performance even further. And I think that that's something that I focus on doing a lot outside of the gym, is sharing my life with people so that they can get a feel of me, who I am, what I have for breakfast, my day-to-day struggles, the things that make me laugh, and my humor, because it allows people to connect with me on a level outside of something that they can't really relate to, which is my ability to move a barbell. They can relate to me on a bad day when I'm struggling and what I do to overcome that. They can relate to me getting drunk with Sam Bish and down in espresso martinis, you know, and all of these things that everyone that's listening and everyone worldwide does on a day-to-day basis, which makes you relatable. So I think, in answer to your question, that in itself for me is something that I do outside the gym, which I think in turn helps me and other people be better inside the gym too.
Well, we had a little chat before, just saying that for yourself as an Olympic weightlifter who went around all the gyms in the world and said name Olympic weightlifter, you would be by far the most famous Olympic weightlifter out there, and that's probably because of what you just said there.
Yeah, like I said, and it's being relatable, and that's something that, you know, not enough. There's so many great personalities in weightlifting, and there's so many incredible people. They just don't know how to market themselves and express themselves well via social media, because there would be a lot more famous people there too. Because I know a lot of people firsthand, I'm sure you do, Sam, that people will have never heard of, that have a story, have something they've been through to be where they are, which, you know, I'd love to see more people doing that as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I really like your first part of the answer to this, because you're like the first kind of athlete that we've had on the podcast, and for you to now, I'm sure when you were younger and you were training for that specific goal of going to Olympics, that training probably wasn't as fun or different to what training is now. So yeah, just saying that your escape from life is going to the gym, and I think a lot of people can relate to that if they are working a 9 to 5, or if they've got a stressful family or a stressful life at home, and they've got that hour of the day they can go to the gym and they can just relax and let their head go and get into the session. That is, again, super valuable for them and their day, they can get out of it.
Yeah, it should never be seen as a chore to go and do something that is a luxury and that you love to do, you know?
Yeah, it is a luxury, you've got to remember that.
I think that leads on beautifully to the next kind of topic we're going to quickly talk about, which is what is your favourite thing to do outside of the gym. So we spoke about the gym being like an escape and your fun time and where you have real fun and enjoy and make relationships with your friends. But what's your favourite thing to do outside of the gym?
Yeah, so I've got an extreme passion for shopping and clothing and fashion. You know, for me, setting up Big Friday Supplies, a big part of that was to kind of fuel my creative side of things and my creative brain, because I think at heart I love creating and developing new things. So I love spending time in that space. Another thing for me is definitely adventure and travel. And experience. I think that's something that I've started to hold of a lot more value the older I've got, and the more I've gone through life, I guess, is the importance of experience. And I think as a young person, I had to grow up extremely fast. So I went through a lot of my childhood very quickly, because naturally my dedication that I had to sport and trying to get to the Olympic Games. And I missed out on experiencing a lot of things with a lot of people when I was younger. Whereas now for me, being able to share experience with people via travel, via being in new places, meeting new people, is something that I really hold of high value now in my life. And, you know, of course, my girlfriend being a massive part of that as well. Like, as an athlete, no one else fucking mattered. I didn't give a fuck about anyone. I didn't care about your emotions. I didn't care about anyone else's time. It was me and my selfish pursuit to be an Olympian. And I think after that period of time in my life, I realized that there's things now that I hold of much more value than being a great athlete. And it's experiences with people and, you know, enjoyable conversation. Like, we're so connected now to social media, to external influence, that it's something that I find so important to be able to sit like we have here for an hour and have like a meaningful interaction with people is so important. But I also hold a lot of value in my conversation as well. So I think for me as a person, I don't necessarily interact with people on a shallow surface so much anymore, because I get so much out of a deeper level conversation and talking about things that are meaningful or create emotion amongst us, and that you can leave a room going, oh, I feel like full from that conversation. And I think that that's something that, again, for me outside of training is extremely valuable.
Yeah, I say that every time we leave the studio every week. I'm like, this is literally the highlight of my week, because you're just away from distractions. You have actual opportunity to have a conversation with somebody that you have so much value that you can offer people, and it's so hard for you to have conversation with 1,000 people. But if you make a podcast and record a podcast and they're able to sit in to this conversation, almost be part of it, I think that's so nice to be able to offer that. So it's awesome to be part of it physically, and then knowing that it's going out there for other people to listen to and enjoy is like heartwarming. It's really nice.
I think for the guys back home and for us, probably what's super motivational there, what you've said, is that your two favourite things to do outside of the gym are fashion and travel, and your work allows you to design clothes and to do seminars all around the world. How much better can that get?
Exactly, but that's part of being able to create your own blueprint. You know, it wasn't by chance that is the case now, or by luck. It's been years and years of dedication of what I do to create the life that I want. And a lot of people get stuck into life that is restricting them from doing the things that they love doing through fear of insecurity or, you know, having to feel vulnerable in a situation that isn't easy. Whereas for me, life's too short. Like, I live every single day of my life as though it's my last, because we've got a very finite amount of time on this planet to make an impact, and I want to enjoy every single day of that. And that's why it's important for me that I do what I love doing, and I feel challenged and stretched through that on a daily basis, else I'm doing myself a disservice. Yeah. And I think ultimately for me, as a byproduct of that and being able to do what I love doing, I get to inspire thousands of people all around the world, help people do what I do really well, better, get into the sport that I'm so passionate about. And, you know, that's extremely important to me, because that's where you get ultimately your fulfillment, where you've got like a purpose in that state. And I now know what my purpose is here on this planet. I love doing what I do on a day-to-day basis, and I take ownership of that now.
That's sick.
Yeah, very inspiring.
I think we've spoke a lot about like how we've ended up where we have, and like you motivate probably a lot of people out there to probably just go for the dreams and to commit and just to live the life. But what is next for you? So as an ex-Olympian, a massive business owner, traveling the world, what do you think is going to come next?
I think I'm in a really good place right now. Like, I've just finished, one of the biggest projects that we've done recently was developing that app. And I think that was such a draw on my my time and my energy for a period of time that right now I'm here in Bali, I'm relaxing, I'm finding my creative juices again. I don't want to put too much pressure on myself to have a next big focus, because else, like I said, you're always constantly chasing your tail. And it's very easy to, when you've half finished something or half done something, move on to the next thing before it's actually perfected. So I think for me, the key thing is to refine the process and the things that I'm doing now. And, you know, I want to start setting up more life than anything. And as much as I want to travel, there's, like I said, other things in my life that are becoming more of a priority. So I haven't set any major targets for me to achieve. I want to kind of refine everything that's working now with the mobility manual, with the lifting zone, and just focus on my day-to-day happiness as a key thing. I don't have anything in the near future that I'm punching on to do, because it will happen and when the time's right.
Yeah, I really like that answer as well, because it shows that you've done the work and now you can kind of like live through the rewards a little bit. I think a lot of people will get caught up in chasing the next best thing, chasing the next best thing all the time, and then suddenly they're 50 years old and they're like, oh, I haven't actually done anything for the last 30 years. I've just been in the office working. Yeah, I'm very successful, but I think you're finding a nice balance between work and life, where now you've done the work and you've built a team, and now they're going to do the work for you, and you're able to focus a little bit on you and yourself and your life. This
is the thing, and people chase more and more money. You couldn't put any amount of money in front of me now, Sam, that makes me feel any different, okay? Like, from a financial point of view, I'm happy with what I've got. I've got enough to live the life that I want to live. I'm not incentivized by more money anymore. And that's the difference when you really work out what your purpose is, or the things that fulfill you. I love making people smile when they lift a barbell, okay? I get more of a kick, as you will do as a coach yourself, to seeing someone gain enjoyment through what you do or through your direction. I don't get more enjoyment out of getting an extra 100 grand in the bank, okay? And it's hard to come to that realization, but when you do, it is so relieving in a sense that you're able to then focus on the shit that you love doing, making people happy through what you do. The money is always a byproduct, okay? And it will give you something that will allow you to live the life or continue to do what you love doing. But you have to make sure whatever you do, you're doing it for the right fucking reasons, because else it will be very short-lived. And that's where I think if you can get lost in the thing that makes you feel most fulfilled, then happy days.
I think what's shining through there as well is like the perfectionist in you. You're like, I've done something and we've created something amazing, but I still want to refine it, I still want to make it perfect. And that's probably come from being such a high-class athlete as well, the perfectionist is through every training session leading up to the Olympics, and now we're on that.
Yeah, well, a lot of people never start something or put something out there because they wait for perfection before they launch something. and it never gets launched. Whereas for me, like, there's lots of things when we dropped the app that weren't 100% perfect with it. It wasn't right, but it was a darn sight better than the videos that I was filming in my mate's gym on my iPhone. So it's a step in the right direction. And you know, nothing is ever perfect, like if you're a perfectionist, because you're always striving for tweaks and changes. But that's the fun fucking bit, and you never forget that. You gotta enjoy and love the process, because that is the funnest bit of anything that you do. Because once it's complete, you wait for some special feeling that never fucking comes, because the most enjoyable bit you've just fucking missed because you've been so stressed about getting to the end. And like, that's a mistake that so many people made in every pursuit in life, you know?
Yeah, you got to enjoy the journey.
Well, that's what we always say, like, life's the journey, not the destination.
It's the same with this podcast. It's like, we had an idea about starting it, and then one day it was like, right, we'll just book the room and we'll just come in and we'll just see what happens. And it's like every day or every week you get a little bit better, and you're always going to look back in 2-3 years time at your old work and be like, oh,
And laugh,
I've improved. But it's nice to be like, yeah, look how far I've come, look how better I've got at something. So I put the time into learning it and improving on it. It's inspiring, yeah.
This is probably the bit of the podcast which I'm most looking forward to. So obviously I want to know...
It's not the dad jokes.
No, it's not the dad jokes. No, don't worry, that's coming though. If you were starting your journey now, what's one piece of advice you'd give yourself?
No
I
pressure.
think we've never meet Sam Bish for a drinking competition.
I don't know this Sam you're talking about, because the Sam nowadays is so tame.
Retired.
Yeah, it's because he's been saving himself for my return. I think we've touched on so many things that I wish I knew when I was younger in today's podcast. But like I said, I think the fundamental thing that I would have told my younger self was to enjoy the things that I experienced more. I put so much pressure on myself, like I said, to reach the end goal, that I would look back on things and go, I wish I'd enjoyed that more. But that, and not being afraid to fail, I think as a young athlete, as anyone that's desiring to become successful in any pursuit, you get scared of failure. You don't take ownership over who you are and become comfortable with yourself, that it stops you from actually being the best athlete you can be. So I think that that's definitely something. And I think ultimately one of the biggest things that's changed for me in the last, I'd say, only 6 months to a year, but I've finally stopped giving a fuck about what other people think. Like, people will love you, people will hate you, but at the end of the day, that's really not important. It's being able to look at yourself in the mirror and truly be happy with what you see as a reflection. And I didn't get there until like I said, 6 months ago, where I looked at myself and I was happy. And you could say, well, you've been to the Olympic Games, you've made fucking millions of dollars, and you're still not happy. It was only once I stopped giving a fuck what other people think, worked out what my true purpose was, that I could be happy with in my own skin and who I am and the way that I carry myself, and not worry about anyone else's opinion on that. And I would say, again, if I'd spoke to my younger self, I would have told him to get to that place a little bit sooner, because it probably would have allowed me to enjoy more of my younger years.
Yeah, that's pretty much
proper
it,
touch, you know. It's like, yeah, I wish I could have told myself that when I was younger as well.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that comes with age as well. It's like, when you're younger, you're so worried about what everyone's thinking about you, and then you get to that certain point in your life where you're like, actually, why am I caring about what other people think? It's like, a lot of people that I was worrying about when I was younger, I have nothing to do with my life anymore.
No,
and it's just like, it's such a big part of my life that it's gone for that reason. Where I'm like, now I'm just a completely different person. And if I knew that when I was younger, then you would just go through life being like, I don't care about what anyone thinks, and you just focus on you, and you'd have a way better time.
Yeah, well, I think just in general, when you're younger, you put so much pressure on relationships with people, because you do think that, you know, they're there for life. But even in fucking marriages or in partnerships, girlfriends, boyfriends, you pass through periods of life together, you enjoy amazing experiences, but people do tend to grow apart, grow on different journeys, and you've just got to accept that period of time with you have that person for what it was and the enjoyable part that it was, and you transit off on your own. And that's where, like, focusing that internally on yourself and being happy with who you are is so important, because you'll naturally draw in people that like your energy and you for who you are, and you'll reflect the people that don't, and that brings good people into your life, you know, and that's ultimately what you want.
100%.
Yeah, a bit life coaching.
We're just going to start a little section up like life coaching with Sonny Webster.
Yeah, another business for you, mate.
Okay, so we're going to move on to Sam's favourite part of the podcast now.
What is this?
The dad joke section. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, why did the chicken cross the road?
Go on.
To get to the other side.
That's fucking horrific.
So you got one for us?
Did you hear about the Italian chef that died?
Go on.
He passed away.
See, that's actually better.
You're laughing at your jokes as well. I should have laughed at mine.
Okay, what do you call a zombie who doesn't like jokes?
I don't know.
Dead serious. Come on.
No, I hate this section.
Okay, yeah.
That's the point. That's great. Gets him out of his comfort zone.
Yeah, wraps up the podcast well.
Go on then. Do you want to tell us what we've got on next week, Samuel?
Next week we're going to have another special guest on, so make sure you stay tuned to our Instagram so you can get your questions in, and we'll do a big reveal later on next week.
So I'm sure everybody who's listening to this already knows where to find you, Sonny, but where else can they find you?
Yeah, I think, you know, best thing to do is join all of my email lists.
There you go.
By the link in my bio on Instagram is where you'll see the most stuff. But I think from a more, if you've enjoyed the sort of tone of this conversation, head towards my YouTube, because that's kind of more where I'm putting more of my long form content now, which is a little bit more about day-to-day life, business, etc. So hopefully I can give you a little bit more tips and tricks and help, and you can learn from my mistakes.
And for any new viewers, Samuel, where can they find you?
At SamBish92 on Instagram. Life at what? No, that's this one. The Life of Bish on YouTube. Check it out.
Cheers, guys. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. It's Life Outside the Box Podcast, and on Instagram it's Life Outside the Box Podcast. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Da, 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 da.
No.
It's Life Outside the Box.
Awesome. Cheers, guys. Thank you.